Hey there everyone, I'm Namfam, and in this video I'm going to be installing the radio receiver. The radio receiver that I've chosen for this is the Radiomaster R81, and it is a D8 protocol receiver which runs with 8 channels. It does have a 9th channel in here as well that allows you to get the radio strength, the signal strength between the controller and the quadcopter. So I'll just get into it, and what we have here is the previous video I installed the video transmitter bracket that I 3D printed, and as you can see I've taken it out, and the reason for that is because while I was doing some testing on the quad, I did have this bracket which is printed in PLA. It started to warp, and that's due to the heat that came off the video transmitter. So I'll show you here, just underneath the battery lead. I've printed a new one which actually doesn't have a platform so that I can put on the radio receiver. So I've taken that part off. I've actually created 2 different designs, or it's actually one bracket, but I've printed 2 of them. That allows me to mount the the video transmitter in the same position as this one did, but just underneath without the platform on top. So what I've done as well is also I've designed this piece here. Now what this piece is for is to mount the radio receiver. So this one will go onto here on top of the video transmitter, and then the radio receiver can be mounted on top of this. So that's how I'll be doing it, and I'll go through that now. So just taking all these things off, I'll get rid of this one. We won't need it anymore. Pack it out of the way, and so I'll take these screws out. Now I need longer screws than what I've got here. I think these ones on here already are 20 millimeters. I'll just take them off, and what I'm going to do, because this is actually quite high, it's actually set a little bit high, which allows it to be further away from the video transmitter, which produces quite a lot of heat. So I'll need some spare stack screws that I've had laying around, and I'm going to just put them through here. Let's try that again. Okay, and then the radio bracket can go on like this. Now I'll put the STLs for all of these in the description below. So if you want to get the STLs and print them yourself, you can. So now that looks alright. I can then screw this on. I will likely put on some thread lock later, just to stop these screws, same with the flight controller, from vibrating right off the actual stack screws here, or the long screws that I've used. Alright, so now that that's in, I can use this and show you that it will sit on here like this. So I've printed this out because it's out of the way of the battery lead as well. Okay, so for now I'll need to solder on the leads onto the receiver. So I'll show you the diagram again. So you'll see that here we have the radio receiver, and it has the signal wire, which is labeled as S. It has the power as well, and also the ground. Now these 3 lines, these power line and the signal and the ground, will go into the these pads here on the flight controller. So you have G for ground, you have the 5V, which is 5 volts, and also S for the signal. So it's quite straightforward. We'll wire those in, the yellow one being signal, 5 volt as red, and black for ground. So I'll get into it now. So I'm going to solder the leads in here. So See, we've got the yellow, red and black, and I'm going to solder it into here. If you can see, if we can look closely, that there is S plus and minus, and I'm going to solder it in the traditional way, with the leads going through these holes. So turn it around this way. So S is going to be the one in the middle there. Alright, the middle one will be the red lot wire. Alright, so there we have, and just double checking again that the signal wire is yellow, power wire is red, and the negative ground is black. So that's all good there. Now, what came in the packet as well for the radio receiver was this heat shrink. So I can put that on, and what we'll do is that it will cover these connectors for the antenna as well, so it will hold them in. There we go. Nice and secure. Alright, so what this also lets you get to is, you'll see here is the button for binding. So it's just right there, and we'll be mounting it onto the quad in such a way that we can actually get to the button. So we're going onto here like this, right there. I'll be putting some double-sided tape underneath it to hold it on top of here, and also then using cable ties that I've got here that I'll be strapping it all down. Alright, so I have really strong 3M Scotch double-sided tape here. This is the black one, so it is quite strong, and that will do the job. I only need a small amount anyway, so I'll cut a piece off to put under there. Just a small piece will do. And I'll stick it on the back of this. Okay, so you can see the receiver is going to sit here with the double-sided tape double-sided tape, and also the cable ties. So I'll just feed this through. Actually, I'll feed it this way. When I'm doing this, I'm going to be careful not to get the cable tie over and on top of that bind button. Obviously you don't want that to be pressed by the cable tie. There you go. Nice and secure. Alright, and the antenna can sit out here for now. Alright, so we're going to have to solder these wires from the receiver. I might get this just around. No, I'll go around this way, so it's out of the way of the power lead. So this has to go around here, and also then solder, as you saw in the diagram, onto these three pads. So the ground, 5 volt, and the signal wire for the receiver into the flight controller. Alright, so I'm going to pass this through underneath. I don't know if I can do that with the actual plug here on, so I'm going to have to cut it. I'm going to guess that it'll be about that long, and I'm going to snip this off here. Alright. Alright, sorry I had to do that off camera, but it was a bit hard to do it within the camera, but we do have them there now, so it might be out of the way and we could probably get the SD cards in relatively easily with not too much trouble. So I'm just going to strip these wires. Again, just about 2 millimeters, or maybe even less is enough, just to expose some of that wire so we can get it onto the pads. Alright. Okay. So I'll tin the pads, and I'll use the flux pen to add some flux to the pads. Just there. And add some solder. Alright, so now I can solder these wires on. So the first one I'll do from left to right would be the signal wire, which is this guy here. And then the 5 volt, which is the red wire. Go. And then the ground wire, which is black. Alright, so there we have it. The receiver is now wired in. Get these underneath. There you go. I think that's kind of good. Alright, so I'm just going to visually inspect this off camera. Alright, so that looks good at this stage and probably ready for testing. So just to test it so that everything's wired up okay, I do have the antenna on the video transmitter just to make sure that we don't fry it. And again, using the trusty ShortSaver smoke stopper from ViFly. This is the version 2. Always handy to use this, and as always I'll plug it in. I'll put it on 2 amp threshold and let's test it out. Alright, so we don't have any smoke and everything seems to be good, so there you go. Alright, so the radio is now installed and everything seems to be working okay. I'll put in another video to show you how to bind it up and set it up in ViFly. So binding to the controller and setting up all the channels in ViFly. So I hope you liked it or learned something from this video. I'll leave the radio link to the radio product down in the description below. Any comments, please leave it as well and I'll try and get to them. And yeah, cheers. Thanks for watching.